Is this really happening? Do we finally have a commissioner in professional sports that gets it, that understands? Do we finally have a commissioner, possibly even a leader, who is not afraid to stand up to the deacons at Woke United Methodist? I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I don't want to get too excited. Gary Bettman in the NHL, they have given us plenty of reasons to be skeptical. Over the last 12, maybe 18 months, the NHL front office has proven they can spank the winker with the best of them. After their newfound rating success last year during the chase for the Stanley Cup, the NHL, they did what most sports leagues do when they don't want to grow their own audience. They rededicated their lives to worshiping the woke oak tree. They launched all of these rainbow-themed initiatives like diversity training, sensitivity training. According to the media, the NHL, they are one of the biggest offenders when it comes to lacking diversity. They don't worry about diversity in the NBA. I watch a lot of NBA basketball. Sometimes while watching, I'll play a little drinking game with myself. I take a shot every time I see a white player on the court. Needless to say, after the game ends, I'm always sober. Lacking diversity, it's not a problem according to the media in the NBA, but it is a serious, serious problem in the NHL. You see, the NHL is filled with evil white men. To make matters worse, a lot of these evil white men also choose to identify with Mother Russia. Yeah, they are really good friends with Father Vlad, leader of the Russian army. Another area where the media accuses the NHL of lacking diversity is the supposed lack of inclusion of members of the LGBT community. Now, the NHL might have a hard time with the inclusion of black players. Teams can only draft the players that are available. If black players are not available to be drafted, not much the NHL can do about it. But when it comes to the LGBTers, the NHL, they have tried their best to be inclusive. For several years now, teams have been essentially forced to celebrate the pride. Players have worn their favorite rainbow thongs. Practice pucks have been used for purposes outside of hockey. Talented LGBT singers that 99.9% of the country has never heard of, they were invited to sing the national anthem. The mood across the NHL arenas, it has been very, very gay. It's all rainbows and cucumbers here in the NHL. Hockey is for everyone. There's just one small problem, one tiny little problem. This movement of happiness, the celebration of the pride, it's been hijacked. If you listen to the mainstream media, you would be led to believe that Pride Night celebrations have been hijacked by NHL players. This could not be further from the truth. Pride Night celebrations, they have been hijacked by the mainstream media. This is why I often say I feel bad for the real people, the real normal people who identify with the LGBT movement. The vast majority of normal people, we don't have a problem with Frank banging Tank. We don't care. Matter of fact, I don't think most people have a problem with Pride Night celebrations in general. Professional sports teams, they have celebrations for everything. They have HBCU night, bobblehead night. Every year, the Pelicans celebrate Mardi Gras in the Smoothie King Center. Most people do not care. They pay to see professional basketball, or in this case, professional hockey. If you want to have some sideshow celebration before the game or during halftime, go ahead. But the problem with these Pride Night celebrations is, number one, they're in your face. It's over the top. Number two, the media has exploited Pride Night to further their own twisted narrative, which is compliance is not requested, compliance is mandatory. Just think about it. Over the last few months, how many times have we discussed Pride Night in the NHL? I don't know, half a dozen times at least? We have talked about it so much, I started ignoring it because I felt it was becoming too redundant. In every situation, how did the media choose to cover the story? Did they focus on the many positives, or did they focus on what they perceived to be the negative? That negative being players exercising their own personal right not to endorse the pride. You already know the answer. Ivan Provorov, he was crucified by the media. What was his crime? He stayed in the locker room during pregame warm-ups. He didn't turn this into an issue. The media chose to exploit it. Instead of Pride Nights being celebrated, instead of them being something that was supposedly intended to unify and bring people together, Pride Night has become another tool used by the media to divide us. It's become a distraction. The NHL finds themselves in a situation similar to the NBA, where all the media headlines have to do with everything happening off the ice instead of what's happening during the actual game. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, he recognizes this problem. Not only has Pride Night been a distraction for the league and the fan base, it's also become a distraction for the players. Monday night, Gary Bettman was interviewed by CTV up in Canada. I think the Ottawa Senators are looking for a new ownership. They're up for sale. Gary Bettman was in Ottawa. Perhaps he was working on a new ownership deal for the team. I don't know. The point is, there were plenty of potential topics to discuss with the NHL commissioner. What topic did CTV want to discuss? The Pride Night controversy that was created by the fucking media. Watch the exchange for yourself, but I want you to notice something. Pay close attention to how this woke shitfuck leads the viewer into this conversation. Pay close attention to who she is blaming for the negativity surrounding these Pride Night celebrations. Watch for yourself.
In several weeks, but there's a bit of a negative story that's been going around the NHL at the same time. Unfortunately, a really nice initiative in Pride Nights has been hijacked by some individuals who've decided not to participate. Again tonight, a member of the Buffalo Sabres will not wear the Pride jersey, citing Russia's anti-gay law for his reasons for not doing that. The Stahl brothers, who play for Florida here tonight, also did not want to participate in the Pride-themed events. I had a chance to ask Gary Bettman about that.
This is the first time we've experienced that, and I think it's something that we're going to have to evaluate in the off-season. I think in terms of the profile and the platforms that we've been using consistently for Pride Nights, we've been very aggressive and supportive. This is one issue where players, for a variety of reasons, may not feel comfortable wearing a uniform as a form of endorsement, but I think that's become more of a distraction now, because the substance of what our teams and we have been doing and stand for is really being pushed to the side for what is a handful of players, basically, who've made personal decisions, and you have to respect them, and you have to respect that as well.
Did you catch it? Pride Night was intended to be a celebratory. Nothing beats a fine celebration of the grilled woke wiener. But we can't have that in the NHL anymore because these evil white men hijacked Pride Night by refusing to participate. No! The media hijacked Pride Night by choosing to focus, in some cases, on just the one player who didn't want to endorse the Pride for one reason or another. Gary Bettman was right. This has become a distraction. In sports and in business in general, executives, commissioners in this case, they do everything they can to minimize distractions. We hear head coaches talk about this all the time, minimizing distractions. In terms of Pride Night and the media exploitation of it, there is an easy way to minimize this distraction. You get rid of it. According to Gary Bettman, eliminating Pride Night is under serious consideration in the NHL. Now, to me, this is an example of good leadership. Obviously, more and more players are expressing their discomfort. We are seeing entire teams in the NHL refusing to endorse the Pride Parade. Gary Bettman, he is responsible for doing what is best for the league. If Pride Night is causing problems, simple solution, stop doing it. But that is easier said than done. If Gary Bettman and the NHL eliminate Pride Night, they are not going to receive resistance from the players. They're not going to see backlash from team owners. They're not going to get backlash from the fan base. That's all that matters, right? Wrong. The backlash, the fake outrage, it will be severe throughout the mainstream media. And whether we like it or not, the media does have the power to influence public perception of the league. Headline over at Deadspin: if only the NHL had a leader, how come Gary Bettman isn't down with the pound my brown cake? Deadspin accused Gary Bettman of allowing the NHL regular season to be defined by homophobia and transphobia. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember Gary Bettman expressing his fake outrage. I don't remember Gary Bettman publishing article after article crucifying NHL teams and players for refusing to endorse the pride. If anyone is responsible for defining the NHL season with homophobia and transphobia, it's the shitfucks in the mainstream media. They are the reason Pride Night has become an issue. These Pride Night celebrations, they have been happening for years. From what I could tell through my own research, the NHL has been celebrating the Pride since 2010. How many of you knew that? I didn't know until this afternoon, and the reason I didn't know is because it wasn't talked about. Just like HBCU night is not a big story. Just like Mardi Gras night ain't a big story. Pride Night did not become a problem until the media started exploiting it. Like I said, I feel bad for the real people in the LGBT community. I'm sure these Pride Night celebrations mean something to them, but they have been ruined because the media wants to focus on the growing number of players who don't want to comply. If the media had ignored Ivan Provorov, I doubt we see this resistance in the NHL. Other than his own teammates, no one else would have known about it. Fans damn sure wouldn't have known. If I don't see Brandon Ingram in pregame warm-ups, but I see him in the starting lineup, do you think I care? The real question here is, will the NHL suspend Pride Night celebrations? Will they eliminate them? It's one thing for it to be under consideration. It's one thing for Gary Bettman to admit publicly that it's become a distraction and it's being considered. Completely different story to follow through. Now, this is just speculation, but I think Gary Bettman, I think he was testing the waters here. I think he floated this idea to see the media reaction, to get a gauge on the level of fake outrage he was going to receive. It's going to be interesting to see if he follows through. Do I think he will? There is a better chance Mike Freeman gets laid by R2-D2 than the NHL eliminating Pride Night celebrations. If there is one thing we have learned the last few years, sports commissioners, they are afraid to take a stand. They're definitely afraid of the media. But maybe I'm being too cynical here. I'll admit, I am not too familiar with Gary Bettman. I'm familiar with the other three commissioners, Silver, Goodell, Manfred, but I'm not familiar with Gary Bettman. Maybe he'll surprise me. Maybe you know more about him than I do. What do you think? Will the NHL eliminate Pride Night? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.